everybody, and welcome back to Challenge Fatty. Welcome back to another one of me driving a car, this time with a microphone, and hopefully the audio will be better this time. This episode is going to be a different episode because I have handed back the keys to my EV. I've gone back to diesel. Yes, that's right. I have handed back the keys to my EV and I have gone back to a real car, as some of you call them. I will not be giving you full eye contact all the time. I'm going to be driving, so I'm going to be looking this way, so please don't feel like I'm ignoring you. Where to start? Why have I gone back to diesel? There's a quick one for you. I've gone back to diesel in quite a big way. There's going to be a video out soon of me racing in Focus Cup, which is a diesel race series. I believe I might have already, by the time this goes out, I might have already put the onboards on the channel, so you might have seen those. Why have I gone back to diesel? Well, this is effectively a car I get through the company, and I get to choose my cars. I get to make a first choice, a second choice, and then my third option is based on my criteria. So whether I prefer a diesel, whether I prefer an estate, whether I want an automatic, that kind of thing. And if there is not the availability of the car I want, of my second choice, then I get a third option, which is this. Now, because quite often the companies I work for VW Audi Group, just to be blunt, and yeah, that's why I always seem to have VW Group cars. By the way, before we start, this is not a review of this car. Some people know what this car is, and some people know my opinions on this car. So this is not a review of this car. This is me talking about going back to internal combustion engine vehicles, and that's a bit of a stretch as well, because I don't go back to, because I've been driving my daughter's cars, I've been driving my old diesel, and I've been driving Shell's car as well, which is also an internal combustion engine vehicle, but this is my main car. This I'm going back to as my main vehicle. I'm going back to diesel. Now, sadly, the car I ordered wasn't available because VW Group I tried to actually get cars to paying customers rather than muggins here. So I'm fully on board with that. If they want to prioritise getting money from customers and making sure customers are happy, fine. But that means I've gone back to diesel. Am I happy with going back to diesel? No. Is it the fault of this car? No. Is it the fault of my employers? Definitely not, because they're the ones that also give me the opportunity to have EVs. So, no. Why am I not happy? First of all, cost. So, this is a reasonably economical diesel. It'll nudge 50 miles per gallon when I try really hard, and trust me, I am trying really hard. It's got a 40-litre diesel tank, which is, I find, quite small, and that 40 litres is just under 9 UK gallons, or 10.5 good old American Freedom gallons, and I can just about scrape 400 miles of that. That 400 miles cost me about £62 to fill, and that means we're talking about 15 pence for every single mile I do in fuel. Costs me 15 pence. So, as a comparison, when I was driving the ENIAC, a charge took at home cost me roughly 20 quid. Now the electricity's got cheaper, it'll probably be even cheaper than that, but let's say £20, and that would do 300 miles. So that's about 7 pence per mile. So roughly half a price. Now, in the time I have these cars, so roughly 9,000 miles, I probably will need to fill up the AdBlue on this, so that's going to cost me money. Luckily, because it's only 9,000 miles or roughly 3 months, I won't have to deal with things like servicing or brakes or other higher mileage maintenance on this. I genuinely hope I don't, anyway. But the cost involved, so I've not even had this car for a month and it has cost me over £300 in diesel, whereas for the similar kind of distance in the electric, I was just looking at my tracker, £142. And the thing is, I can get, if I have an electric, when I go out on date night, I can park up and I can charge for free. When I come to work occasionally, there are chargers available so I can charge for free. Nobody is giving away free diesel, as far as I know. If you do know, please put it in the comments below. But so that kind of throws the balance. And yes, I do appreciate the fact that not everybody has access to a home charger. I appreciate it so much. We have a previous video on how to live without a home charger, and it would have been, and to be honest, much of a muchness price wise, it probably would have been, granted it would have been slightly cheaper than this, but it's still cheaper to run an electric car than it is currently. Where else? So I need to take a step back. When I got told I was getting this car, I actually felt a little bit positive. I was really quite excited because I've grown up with combustion engines and I love combustion engines. I grew up being dragged out to the forests of Cumbria and Northumberland, to Grisdale, Kersham, Kielder, to listen to rally cars rattle through and I used to get showered by massive boulders kicked up by everything from Mark II Escorts to Metro 6R4s. I love that. I used to sit in paddocks when we would go and visit my uncle racing, and you'd smell burnt Castrol and you'd hear the really, really caustic race fuel in metal jerry cans ticking. I thought I was going to get back in this and I would just fall back in love with the experience. Instead, I'm not. Basically, I forgot. I didn't take into account exactly how much electric vehicles change the paradigm of how you drive. In some ways, it's insanely simple. You get in, you press go, you press stop. On the ID4s and 5s and 3s, they even have a play-pause button. Play for accelerator and pause for brake. And to be honest, that's very, very fitting. It is that simple. And that simplicity, once you come back to even an automatic diesel, it's easy to miss. Because there's more to do. This car, again, it's not a review, but there's more to do. And I don't see, I've been told by people around the industry that most people, when they buy a car, want the automotive version of a stainless steel fridge. They want something that they can show off to their friends, that fits in with their life, will start a conversation, and yeah, that's what most people want from a car. They're not too worried about lift-off oversteer or the fine element of grip when you're going round a roundabout, as long as it does grip. Most people are more interested in whether it's going to cost them an absolute fortune in fuel than they are about 0.001 extra on their coefficient of drag. So, and then, to be honest, that never used to ring home for me until I had an electric. And you come back to a car which is like this, which is a car from a premium brand that's meant to be for drivers, and you're doing your daily commute, and it's a bit much. Yeah, I can't really. There's little things. There's things which you get in an EV which you don't get in this. Like, you can precondition an EV. You can, using a phone app, you can make sure that the car is toasty warm on a cold winter's morning before you even get out to it, and the windscreen's clear. Or on a hot day, the air conditioning has been running, and when you get in, it's like getting into an icebox. It's brilliant. I love it. And when you come back to a petrol or diesel car, that disappears. I guess, granted, you're going to lose a couple of miles, and I mean literally only a couple of miles, pre-cooling your car before you get in on a warm day. But just knowing that's available is just easier. I was going to run through all the things which most people say are negatives about EVs, and tell you how that everybody's wrong. They're not. Because yes, to buy them brand new, the actual sticker price in a dealership, they are more expensive. Can't avoid that. What you pay as a monthly figure, I don't think is that different, to be honest. It may well be, but it's probably not. And by the time you take into account the fact that it may be cheaper to run, again, it's definitely not that different. When it comes to second-hand cars, because second-hand really is the place where the public decides how much something is worth, then a lot of cars are very, very close to parity. I mean, if you look at some of the Stellantis cars, like the E2008, you can get a similar spec 1.2 turbo, or, sorry, I'm just having to let a lady in here because she's being a bit awkward. Yeah, you can get an E2008 1.2 petrol for about 13 grand. For the same age, same spec as an electric, it's about 13 grand. So you have price parity there. But then again, once you have the car, it's cheaper to run. Now, the other thing I can't deny about electric vehicles is it takes longer to charge. But this is where it's a yes, but. Yes, it takes longer to charge. Can't deny it. If you, on a day-to-day basis, if you need to charge during the week and you have access to a charger at home, it's as easy as plugging in your phone before you go to bed, because that's literally what you do. You plug it in before you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, problem solved, car's full, off you go. On a road trip, it's slightly different. You park up in the thing, in the car park at these services, you plug it in, and then you go in and you have your over expensive KFC, and you buy your £5 worth of sweeties, which normally would be about £2.20, or your £6 bottle of Coke, or your internally expensive coffees. You do all that, and then you come out to a car that's charged and you unplug it and you drive off. When you have a petrol car, you do all that anyway, waste all that time, and then you go and fill up. Now granted, it only takes 4 or 5 minutes to fill up a car when you're on the motorway, but yeah, it's how you rearrange your life, and it isn't that much of a compromise. I've done, for the last few years, I've been doing a family commute at Christmas, of going from Warrington up to Carlisle, then Scotland, doing Edinburgh, Glasgow, and back in one day, basically 500 odd miles, and having family meals, dropping off presents and all the rest of it, as easy as I would in this diesel. of electricity is another one which people go on about, and to be honest, yes, the cost of electricity at rapid chargers, if you use your card, is more expensive than it would be if you is it? Because that would be like comparing the fuel price at a petrol station on the services, and they're absolutely eye-wateringly expensive. So I think if you're going to do that, it's trying to, you have to compare apples for apples, and to be honest, electrics aren't apples and they're more oranges, and I've lost the analogy, but basically what I'm saying is you wouldn't voluntarily go and fill up your car at a motorway services. If you're trying to get home, you'd put the minimum amount in. Likewise, if you were plugging in an electric at a services, you wouldn't sit there until it's 100% or even 80%. You would get the absolute bare minimum to go on to get back home, to get to a cheaper charger, or just to get to where you're going in your little road trip. So there is other ways around it. So the whole thing about this going back to diesel, am I excited to do it? No. Things are more expensive. If quite often in the morning, instead of having to wake up to a fully charged car, I've got to go and fill up with diesel. And if I go fill up a diesel for the rest of the day, every time I bring a coffee mug up to my face, or I don't know, a sandwich or whatever, I'm going to be smelling diesel on my bloody hands, and it annoys the shit out of me because I'm a spoiled little whiny bitch. Once you get used to having an electric car and plugging in a clean plug into a clean hole, you don't have that smell of diesel or petrol on your hands for the rest of the day. And trust me, when you go back to it, you notice it. You notice it quite a lot. It's like walking. If you used to have a friend at school who smoked, and you haven't seen them for years, and then you walk into their house to go and say hi to them at Christmas, and then you get hit by the smell of smoke. It's like that. You go back and you smell diesel on your hands, and diesel gets everywhere. It wipes off on the steering wheel. Petrol, and to be honest, I really hate it. I have things against the smell of petrol. But either which way, it's the little things you don't notice until you get back in them. All of this said, I have to do one big caveat. Tracks. When it comes to being on a racetrack, I'm sorry, I go back, and I do love internal combustion engines for that. I want to feel each gear change. I want to feel revs building. I want to be able to judge my next gear change as much by the vibrations through my arse and going into my ears than I do looking at the rev counter. I want to have the penalty of a missed time down change. I want all that challenge when I'm on track. But when it comes to a commute, when it comes to sitting on to the M6, as we join the M6, in shitty traffic, do I want all this? Do I need all that engagement? No. Could my attention be dealt with better driving than listening to certain clunks, whizzes and bangs and wondering whether one of countless thousands of moving parts is going to spontaneously think that it doesn't want to do its job today? No. For the vast majority of people doing the vast majority of journeys, I think their life would be, I genuinely think, this sounds really, really hyperbolic and all the rest of it, but I genuinely think most people's lives will be improved and they'd be calmer and more relaxed with an electric. So yes, I've gone back to diesel. Am I happy? No. Sorry. I'm a spoiled little whiny first world problem having little bitch who's complaining about having a 40 grand car put in their hands instead of a different 40 grand car put in their hands. And on context of that as well, before anybody chips in, it took me nearly 20 years to get promoted to the point where I got said car. So I went through 20 plus years, 25 years of disposable, cheap, shitty cars, dealing with everything from blown turbos to bushes and other shitty things that you get on high mileage, cheap cars, so that I can get to the point where I graduate to this. As I said, 2 years ago, I would have died for a car like this. I would have killed for a car. Well, I mean, killed. Maybe I would have done sexual favours for a car like this. Mainly over the trousers hand stuff, but the offer would still have been there. But now, you give me the option, and my company does, I'm ordering electric. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Hopefully we'll be in another episode soon and I won't get a torrent of abuse and cancelled. But anyway, this has been my thoughts on going back to diesel. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you have been, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all the good usual things. There's buttons down there which basically, I've done the dislike one. I understand what happens when you press dislike now. So feel free to press like instead. And I will see you on the next Challenge Fatty. Bye.